Okay, so I've finished The Lost Metal. I started this book in the last vlog and now it is done. So I'm going to start off this vlog by giving my spoiler-free thoughts on The Lost Metal because there's already a spoiler discussion up on my channel at the time that you'll be seeing this. I'm filming it tonight, so it'll already be edited and uploaded by then. So if you've read the book and you want the full discussion, I'll have it linked in the description of this video, and if you haven't read the book, don't know if you want to read the book, just want to know my thoughts, that's the beginning of this vlog. So my spoiler-free thoughts for The Lost Metal. I really enjoyed this conclusion, and I think that the character work in this particular book is the best of the four. I think that the ground laying that Sanderson has done for these characters meant that in this book he was able to sprint with them. And not only that, but I also just think that Sanderson as a writer continues to improve in the way he writes his characters, and I really see that in this book, especially for my boy Wayne, a character that I love and have loved since book 2, and I think that Sanderson finally really got into his groove with how he wrote Wayne, to where he got that right balance of the nuanced character that's a bugger, instead of just like that character that's a bugger with like maybe a little drops of nuance here and there. I think he killed it with how he wrote Wayne. I think that he killed it with how he wrote Steris. Just in general, the character relationships in this were very, very good. And the plot itself, I think, is probably the weakest element of this book. I do think that the plot wasn't... Sanderson is an amazing storyteller. He's a very good plotter, and I think that it was kind of a weak point for this book, but that's okay for me as a reader because I'm far more of a character reader than I am as a plot reader. So people that are complaining that or noting that the plot isn't as strong in this one, I think is a very, very fair criticism. It's just not as essential for me as it is for others to have an extremely intricate, well played out, twisty, turny, unexpected plotline. Another thing that a lot of people are talking about is the Cosmere references, and I think that Sanderson did an amazing job with how he did his Cosmere references in this book, because especially in the second half of the book there were quite a few, and he treated them as Easter eggs. He treated them as characters and things, foods showing up on the pages where we basically just get to go, I know that thing! I recognize that thing! And because of who Sanderson is as a writer, I'm sure he'll continue to build on it, and the relevance of certain things making it into this world is just going to get bigger. But as of right now, it just felt like a fun Easter egg for Cosmere fans, and I loved trying to identify who each person was before it got revealed to me completely, or getting to theorize about why certain elements made their way into this book. It was just really fun. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. I thought that it was super fun. What I expect from Era 2 is a fun time. I don't expect it to be his deepest, next greatest work. With the amount that Sanderson puts out, with the number of books that he writes, some are going to be on the lighter side of things and some are going to be on the, more complex, intense side. And this series is one of his lighter series, and it does its job so well. And I think I enjoyed The Lost Metal as much as Shadows of Self and Bands of Mourning. Like, I would put all three of those books on the same level. Alloy of Law, the first book, I did think was not nearly as good as a lot of Sanderson books that I've read, but then the next three were all on the same level for me. They were just very solid books that were a ton of fun to read. I don't know, it was good. I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed this a lot. But again, if you want a more detailed discussion, that's already up on this channel, so I'll have it linked. Next, I'm reading The Emperor's Soul, because there was one thing that happened in The Lost Metal that referenced the Emperor's Soul that I do not need to read The Emperor's Soul to understand, but I liked it, and I'd like to read more about it, so I'm gonna read that real quick instead of following my TBR. But that shouldn't take very long. It's very short. So there you go. Welcome to the vlog. It's been a long time since I've actually recorded that first clip in the vlog because it was a holiday in the US last week, so I didn't post, and now it's this week and now I can get a post. So I read The Emperor's Soul, which is a short story, a novella by Brandon Sanderson, and it follows this woman after she was captured. She has this ability to, if she can study a person's ins and outs, if she can really know what makes a person tick and what they think, and the core pieces of who they are as a person, then she can potentially create a stamp of them, basically make a replica of them. She is an artist of sorts, an artist at creating replicas of things. So a little bit of a thief. Maybe she does some art thievery because she's super good at creating counterfeit pieces. But anyway, she's captured and she's being forced to create what is essentially a counterfeit of a human, of a soul. And so she has to work at doing this while also trying to figure out her escape. And it was a lot of fun. I typically don't enjoy Sanderson's novellas because they're typically a piece of a wider story, and I just don't care for that storytelling style. But this was completely its own thing. It was completely its own individual story, and I thought that it was a lot of fun. I really liked our main character. I thought that her abilities as a counterfeit artist were fascinating, and the ins and outs of her trying to study the emperor and figure out what makes him tick so that she can counterfeit his soul was really fascinating, and I just had a really good time reading it. Then after that I read Half a Soul, which I've already finished, and that's what I'm saying. It feels like it's been so long since we've talked because I usually check in halfway through a book. But this is a Regency era sort of setting. It feels very Jane Austen-esque, or just like any book set in that time. She's just a very well-known author. Anyway, it's that sort of setting, that sort of like, there are balls, there are these society expectations, prim and proper English society, and then you have our main character who lost half of her soul at the beginning of the book. A fairy, a fae creature stole it, and now she walks around with half of a soul, which affects her strongly in her ability to understand societal expectations. So she doesn't experience every emotion. She doesn't experience a lot of more simple emotions. It's not that she doesn't feel, but she also doesn't pick up on a lot of societal standards or, you know, the silly... It feels very Jane Austen because a lot of Jane Austen books, while they have this similar setting and her books are very societal, they're also very heavy on critiquing society and making fun of the expectations of that time. And this book definitely does that, where our main character not understanding the whys for the societal norms and questioning everything, or constantly kind of fumbling over herself because she just speaks very bluntly, and that's not appropriate. So she's just like, oh, I did another blunder, didn't I? And it's just like... The humor is fantastic. It's a very cozy, sweet story. So anyway, she's trying to get her soul back, and she elicits the help of a sorcerer who's like the best. And so he's willing to help her. And So the plot is them trying to get her soul back, and the subplot is this romance that happens, but I would say that the romance is just as significant of piece of the story. So it's just this very cozy, familiar sort of setting with incredible humor sprinkled all throughout it. Our protagonist is so likable. She's so much fun because of the way she's so removed from a lot of the expectations that people have. But she's also very strong, she's very resilient, and she is really willing to fight to get that piece of herself back to her. And then of course there's a lot of seedy underground, you know, things that they uncover in their quest to do all this stuff, and learning more about the Fae and all that kind of stuff. So it was just a very easy read, and it was very, I guess I would just put it as like wholesome and charming. It's not the type of story that I typically gravitate towards, but it was really, really lovely, and the romance was written fantastically. It was definitely a big piece of the story, so know that. But if you want kind of a Jane Austen sort of style story with a lot of great humor, just like Jane Austen, and it was just fun. It was just a lot of fun. If you want a really fun, very fast to read book, it was quite good. So now I have started. Oh hi! The final book that I was going to talk about in this video ended up being a DNF, and not even for a fun ranty reason. I just couldn't really get into it and didn't want to keep trying. So the vlog ends here. Sorry it was short and came to an abrupt end. Bye!